the Nvidia Shield was before its time.
It
And there
was.
is something waiting to occupy that living room space that gives you access to your Steam libraries and a open model, a little bit like the Sky Q box or satellite boxes or whatever. The open model version of a console that can go Epic, GOG, Xbox's library, 5, 6, 7 different storefronts on a machine running really decent, powerful hardware that fits in the form factor and will run on the boot of a controller being pressed.
Well, that's exactly where I think Microsoft are going. I think this handheld was a smaller market to
Yeah,
trial out their new business model. I really believe that. So it's like we can take the risk without investing a ton of money into the R&D and the hardware. We've got a great partner that has already built it. They'll tweak it, put an Xbox logo on it, and it's good enough for us. But realistically, all this is just prepping and learning for that next gen
yeah,
console next year. So I 100% believe that if this is the direction they're going, which they've shown their cards now, next Xbox will be a Steam box, an ROG, a GOG box, a Battle.net box, an Xbox Game Store box. It'll be the box for
the
everything.
open
That's the
box. Yeah,
approach. Yeah.
yeah.
And people have also gotten the PlayStation equivalent games on Steam working on the LIX as well. Now, still early days. What Sony does to combat that remains to be seen, but I don't see them taking this lightly. They will either pull games from the Steam store or create their own launcher. And I think that's probably what it is. They'll create a Sony launcher and all the Sony games will be in there. People will cry about it, but it stops that launcher being on non-PlayStation devices,
Yeah.
But interestingly, puts Sony in a very interesting, I say interesting because we don't know how this will turn out for them. This could very well be the next best thing since sliced bread. And there are a lot of people out there that do want the everything box. There really are. But the console audience that they've already accumulated, what happens to them? Do they adapt? Do they migrate? Do they give up gaming altogether? Is this too complicated? Is it too expensive? There's a lot of ifs here at the moment, and they're taking a very big gamble on it. One thing we do know, though, is that they've confirmed, the CEO of PlayStation has confirmed that PS6 is in development, but also is the next PSP. So
Right.
part of me can't help but wonder if Sony will take a similar approach, not with all the storefronts, but with the scalability of their games. We'll also release a PSP shortly after PS6 launches, so we don't cannibalize our own market. And then everything that comes out on the PlayStation will be scalable to the handheld as well. So they'll take a kind of half-step approach, but still maintaining that ecosystem, keeping it clean, keeping it simple, keeping it very PlayStation like they've done so far. And exclusives will still be a big core part of this. And hopefully in the next year or two, that live service ship that didn't work so well for them has finally done the 180, and we start to see those games start coming back onto the platform again. And that's the direction I see myself gravitating more towards, hence why I did jump to the Sony ship. So
Yeah, exactly. And now there is no going back.
there is no going back. And you want to know why? Go on, you
about-
give them the news. Give them the news.
Well, we've just had Mike, so I don't know how many people are left at the moment. I think we might have someone who's, like going around.
Cleaners are there still.
Definitely,
surely.
the cleaners are still there. That's probably about it at this point. Microsoft have announced another savage round of layoffs. And I mean, we can't even go 5 episodes without talking about another round of layoffs from Microsoft, surely. 9,000 employees now affected, 4% of the workforce. That is what has been happening. I've been fresh off the news of this. What else have you been hearing on this front? I could see some bullets, but I've been a little bit late to the news as this broke earlier today.
So let's start with the announcement, then we'll work our way backwards. I think is probably the best way to do it. So 9,000 employees affected, which Microsoft have said it equates to about 4% of their current workforce. Obviously, the usual slew of emails went out to the wider audience that, as we align our new strategy and as we make things better for the gaming audience, blah, 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 we think we're positioning ourselves. There were some interesting quotes in there that I've extracted from these emails. So these are 3 from Phil Spencer's email in particular, right?
Yeah.
So we've got the first one. He says, for enduring success and allowing us to focus on strategic growth areas. Okay. And then the second quote I've pulled is, follow Microsoft's lead in removing layers of management to increase agility and effectiveness. And then in the last paragraph, he says something to the effect of, I recognize that this comes at a time where Xbox had its best lineup and highest number of gaming hours played. Yeah. Now, if you don't know why I've picked these 3 out, it's because Microsoft has not only cancelled titles such as Perfect Dark and Everwilds, but they've shut down the initiative, the studio altogether. They've laid off 50% of Turn 10, which would explain why we didn't get a expected Forza Horizon announcement this E3.
Yeah.
There was an MMORPG that ZeniMax Online was working on, codenamed Blackbird, that's been cancelled, and rumor has it that was going to be a Star Wars Mandalorian game, so pretty big deal. Yeah. King, the makers of Candy Crush, have laid off 10% of their staff, which I find interesting considering those guys just print money.
Yeah.
And also Bethesda's European offices have been hit as well. So no one's safe. They didn't give numbers about the Bethesda layoffs, but it literally, look, at this point in time, you're starting to notice a pattern, right? Is this really making Xbox a better gaming platform? What I've taken the liberty of doing is just going onto ChatGPT and asking it to give me all the layoff announcements in the past 12 months, just the last year. There's been more, but let's just keep it clean. June of 2024, about 1,000 employees were affected, but most of these were from the HoloLens and Azure cloud divisions, all right, laid off. And then May 2025, we had 6,000 jobs, about 3% of its workforce, including Xbox, LinkedIn, and international offices laid off. 6,000, so that's 7,000 so far. Again in May, 270 employees in the LinkedIn office, because they own LinkedIn as well, were laid off. June 2025, 300 additional employees, mainly based at the headquarters in Redmond, Seattle, were laid off. Yeah. And then this one today, 9,100 employees in July 2nd. And you've got to, at some point, question this. Like, okay, let's look at Arcane Austin.
Yeah, that was outside of that, wasn't it?
That was even outside of that. I could be, I'm being generous by not including it, but we have to include it. You've got to look at the choices that the management are making here.
Yeah,
they allowed Redfall to come out the way it did. Mm-hmm. They could have stopped it. Sony are unanimous for doing this. They are synonymous for doing this. They go out there and they stop games because it doesn't meet a certain quality standard. They allowed Redfall to come out. They allowed that game to get completely creamed. And then obviously when no one played it and it got the bad reviews, what did Microsoft do? They shut down Arcane and Austin as if it's the developer's fault for not having more time. BS. And then you look at what happened with Tango Gameworks, the makers of Tokyo Hi-Fi Rush, Evil Within, among other things. Shinji Mikami even saw the writing on the wall and left months prior to that.
Yeah. Pete
Hines, CEO of Bethesda, shortly after the acquisition was complete, he leaves Bethesda. He sees the writing on the wall somewhere. Mike Ybarra, the now CEO, I believe, of Blizzard, who used to be on the Xbox leadership team, constantly voicing his opinion on X, constantly criticizing, constantly wondering what the hell Microsoft are doing. And then we have one of the founding members of the Xbox team, way back in the early 2000s, I forgot her name, recently put up a video on her channel talking about how Xbox have lost their way. What made them great no longer exists. They're all in it for the money. I've said this in multiple episodes. I really think there's somebody up there in finance treating the Xbox division like the Microsoft division, setting the same financial targets when that you can't translate. That doesn't exist.
Yeah.
You don't sell like... Yeah.
Alpha Dog is also Roundhouse Studios.
Yeah.
And the Odyssey team in Blizzard as well.
Yeah.
All impacted by it.
Let's talk about what we didn't see at this E3. We heard nothing from Bethesda. Nothing.
No.
Nothing about Elder Scrolls 6, which we're now going on to 8 years since they unveiled they were making it. We didn't even get Starfield coming to PS5.
Or even a new DLC.
I mean, the DLC was 50-50 after what happened last year, but definitely the PS5. I mean, they could have made money. The game's practically built. Changed the button prompts from A, B, X, Y to triangle, square, circle, whatever. We didn't get any of that. We didn't get the new Forza, as we mentioned. We didn't get any. We didn't get any Fable news. At this point, I wouldn't be surprised if Fable gets cancelled. I really wouldn't. I'm surprised we didn't even get Gears news either. We got the Reloaded news, but we didn't get E-Day news. So if they're so happy to cancel such big hitters, and Perfect Dark, which is a game that's been in development since 2018, close to everyone's hearts from the N64 days, and then they show it, and it was the highlight, the crown jewel of the show last year, Microsoft or Xbox's best ever E3 show.
Yeah.
And that was the one where everyone was like, holy crap, it exists and it looks good and Crystal Dynamics are on board and they've got a great track record and oh my god, I can't wait for this game. And then to be like, yeah, for enduring success and allowing us to focus on strategic growth areas, for Microsoft's lead in removing layers of management to increase agility and effectiveness. I'm sorry, how does closing studios remove layers of management?
Or cancelling games,
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you've invested 6 to 8 years in the development of this game. What's another year or two at this point? Let it come out.
I remember hearing about Perfect Dark. We was several months prior. Why we were so shocked about seeing Perfect Dark last year was the fact that we heard a few months prior that this game was supposedly in absolute development hell.
Yep.
And then we saw it. So I don't know whether there's still, it showed us 30 seconds of
smoke and mirrors.
Smoke and mirrors, perhaps. Yeah. I don't know.
Anything's possible, but at some point you've got to look at the track record. You can take the one-off announcements and make your own judgment, but then I think we've got a good enough track record here, a year to a year and a half of moves that really haven't landed well with the consumer base.
Yeah.
And I think the one that hurts people the most, I mean, Perfect Dark getting cancelled is a big deal, but the one that hurt people the most was Hi-Fi Rush.
Oh, and fans of Evil Within, yeah.
Evil Within as well.
Series, yeah.
But fortunately for that studio, at least it got picked up by Tencent right before the studio closed. So there is a chance Hi-Fi Rush 2 could still happen, but at least those guys got to keep their jobs. Look, I'm not going to play Mother Teresa here, but, it's anytime someone loses a job because of idiotic management that don't know what direction the ship's going in, it is always a bad thing. But man, this is exactly why I cannot, in good faith, put hard-earned money towards their next generation. The decisions they're making don't benefit me as a investor of their platform, all the library of games I've built up over the last 25 years.
Yeah.
There's nothing they're doing going forward that tells me they're going to be around much longer. They've gone from third place underdog to be made fun of to Microsoft evil corporation.
Well, but there was one point before that. If you look at that free 6 month window whereby they could have, been took the crown. I mean, if they took a very different direction, we've said it. We've been through it many times on this podcast. But if they took a different direction, different strategy, rather than them trying to recoup money from the ABK deal so quickly.
Yeah,
they could have really put some serious pressure on PlayStation, and
they
it could have been
won.
a different result. Yeah,
they could have won the console war.
Yeah,
but they didn't want to wait the 6 to 12 months. They had to put everything. I get the Call of Duty legally; they couldn't do it, so fine. Let's exclude Call of Duty. But Indiana Jones, Starfield, all these games they've got in the pipe that they could just literally keep as an exclusive. It's like, I get it. You won't make as much up front, but think about the customer base in the long term that will gravitate towards your new console, especially now that we're on the cusp of a new generation. But no, instead you be the bad guy, you give BS excuses about why you've done it, and try to justify it as if this is the right thing to do to make effective choices and make the games better. I'm sorry, but closing down the initiative doesn't impact any other game you've got in development.
Yeah.
It impacts your bottom line, and that's really what this is about, corporate greed. And Microsoft being a $3 trillion company, the richest company in the world by today's standards. Probably more than that now. Has no excuse. What are we cutting costs for? Every 2 months we're cutting this much aggressively? You're not hemorrhaging money. You're doing better than the US government. What are you talking about? This
that's
is
crazy.
it's ludicrous.